The number of children and teens killed by guns in the United States has increased by 30% to now 1,637 fatalities, averaging more than 4 deaths per day. Now, it sounds like we're living in a war zone. So if you're a parent with children or teenagers out late at night, you may find yourself tensing up every time the phone rings. And one phone call can throw your world into chaos and panic just like that. Imagine getting that call, a call where a voice tells you your son or your daughter has been shot and killed. Today, you will meet 2 moms who did receive those horrific phone calls. Sharon, who has been featured on Your World before, got the call that her son was gunned down in a college campus. Demetria, who was in our studio audience, then supporting her friend, received her call just a few weeks ago. Her son Kyle was killed in his front yard in front of his kids in a senseless drive-by shooting. Parents should not have to answer such phone calls or experience such pain. Today, we will welcome back these 2 ladies and help them in their struggle to stay strong in the face of these tragedies. I'm Creflo, and this is Your World.
Changing one life, time after time. Oh Lord, we do it all for you.
Through the trials I see, I'll always believe a new life starts with me. Oh,
Change your world today. Change is gonna come your way. Change and get an understanding. His grace will transform you.
Sharon Starks is the mother of Christopher Starks, who lost his life to an on-campus shooting on August 30th, 2015. Her son's killer was still at large shortly after the shooting. Sharon appeared on the Your World show in a special episode we called Mothers Against Murder, so we could help her through her grief and ambiguity of her son's untimely death. Watch this.
Received a call on August the 27th, and he said, Sharon, Chris been shot in the chest. And I started screaming, and he went in the chest.
And so when you arrived there, you discovered that he was already gone?
By that time, Chris was already gone.
Of course, the detectives and everybody involved, GBI, getting information, and I understand this is probably still under investigation.
Still an investigation.
Have they found the shooter yet?
No.
Nearly 3 years later, Sharon returns to our program to talk through her feelings about her long ordeal and hopefully achieve closure over the devastation of her family. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Sharon back to Your World. You. Wow. You know, one of the things I want to celebrate is the birth of this powerful ministry.
Yes.
that God has given you.
Yes.
And it's amazing. You look like you got a layer of anointing on you for the task that is at hand.
Thank you.
Tell us about the recent information you got about the guys that were apprehended, and just give us an update on that.
Okay. April 26th, I received a call from the GBI, the detective that's been on the case. He's been on the case about a year. Mm-hmm. And he called me and he said, Sharon, and I said, yes. He said, we're here making the arrest of the young man who killed Christopher. Mm-hmm. And I started screaming. And he said that we're gonna put him in the car now and we'll give you a call back later. So after I got off the phone, I called Chris's dad and Chris's brother. to let them know that they had made their arrest.
How did that feel?
I could breathe. You know, I could breathe.
That was rough.
Yes.
You have gone through this horrific situation, this egregious act that was responsible for taking your son from you,
Yes.
and yet there's this assignment that you've gotten from God.
Yes.
Tell us about it.
It's called The Strength of a Mother. And the strength of a mother was birthed out of my pain of losing Chris. And because of everything that I've went through, within the last 2.5 years, I can really recognize and help families and mothers go through the process. Sometimes, you know, families don't have insurance. So with the Strength of a Mother, we want to be able to help them financially, as well as help them through the process of their grieving. Because after the funeral and everything is over, you know, you feel alone. But with the Strength of a Mother, you have another village, I'm gonna say, of families and mothers who've been through the same thing, and you can lean on.
What are some of the things you've encountered in this ministry? What are some of the things you've seen or experienced as a result of what you've accepted to do?
More tragedies. A lot of families who are going through it or who have been through it are still, like, you know, really hurting. And some of the mothers who are going through the process that I'm going through now with getting justice. And my advice to them is just don't give up. And for me, I call the GBI every day or once a week, and I sent scriptures.
You sent scriptures to the GBI?
Yes.
How did they respond to that?
Thank you, thank you. I would send them scriptures every day. My detective, I send him scriptures every day, and I still do,
Yeah.
you know.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's a process, and you just have to go through it the best way you can. And, you know, keep God first. And what helped me was, like, you know, reading my word, praying, and just going through the emotions, you know, going through the different emotions.
So isn't it awesome that God has placed a ministry in the earth to deal with tragedy after tragedy? He's always coming up with something that's going to deal with whatever's happening.
Yes.
And, you know, I thought it was just so amazing for you to be the one that's been called to come up with something that's going to minister to folks. And I'm gonna put this on you. I pray this thing go nationwide. I pray y'all have nationwide conventions, and I pray you have so many pleasant problems trying to figure out how to do this and how to handle that, and oh, we need more phones, and oh, we need more employees, because it's all over this country.
Yes.
And thank God for your strength to accept this call, to show people how to turn their mess into masterpieces. Wow. Now, when we come back, you'll meet a woman who was here for Sharon on the program to support her friend during her grief and out of concern for her own son's safety. And now, she recently received that phone call that devastated her son. Her son, Kyle, was shot 5 times, and she received that phone call. That's next, right after this.
The 2018 Change Experience with Creflo and Taffy Dollar is coming to New York, September 28th, and Los Angeles, California, November 2nd.
I don't want to miss out on anything that they have. So where they go, I go.
2018 Change Experience, New York Marriott Marquis in New York, September 28th, and Crenshaw Christian Center in Los Angeles, California, November 2nd. Seats are free. Register today.
Something that you said, Dr. Dollar, that really struck me was, how do you get in the minds of the young black men? I deal with it with my son. Yesterday, he got a phone call of a friend of his that was murdered yesterday morning, and the mindset of my son is revenge. And I don't know how to keep my son I don't want to get that phone call.
Welcome back. Please join me in welcoming Demetria to your world. I want to thank Demetria for your courage to come and share with us. It was a shock to me to see, that you were here on the last show and to hear that question and to hear about what happened just a few weeks ago. Take us into your world and take us down that path from that question, being concerned. And you could see you were very, very concerned to where we are today.
It's rough in Toledo, Ohio. There's always some young black men being killed there. And my concern was for my son that I would get that call because he had so many friends that were shot and killed. And they wanted revenge. And so I was always praying and nervous and scared that I would one day get that phone call.
And where were you at the time?
I was at work.
Okay.
And my daughter, Kiana, was on her way on her first cruise, and she was driving to Tampa, Florida. And she had told me she would arrive about 12:40. And I was at work training someone, and so my phone had rung. And I thought it was her, just to say she had arrived.
You'd mentioned at one time that because of a lot of his friends had gone through that and they'd been shot and killed, your concern was he had a heart just full of revenge. He wanted revenge.
Yes.
Do you think that played a part in him eventually being gunned down?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yes.
From that point on, did he ever talk about some of the things he wanted to do to try to get revenge? Because I'd imagine these were some of his friends that were being shot down,
Yes.
right?
It was, one was a best friend of his that he had grown up with. So he had been taking that really hard for years. And I don't think he ever really healed from that. And so to lose another friend the same way was devastating for him. And I just remember continuing to talk to him and tell him that's not going to bring your friends back. And I don't need you to go to jail because you have children that you need to be here for.
How old was he?
At that time, he was 22. And he was 24 when he was killed. Yeah.
So you get the phone call. And as far as the information that you were able to get from it, what happened?
My daughter was screaming at the top of her lungs. I just told her that I couldn't understand what she was saying. And she said she got the phone call that he had been shot. He was at home with his children, and he had just stepped outside on the side of his house. And they just drove by and shot him 5 times.
Yeah. That just so senseless.
Yeah, and his oldest daughter saw him on the side of the house.
Sharon, what would be your counsel to her?
I say to you, it's a process. You have to go through the hurt, the anger, blaming, but just keep God first. And it's a day-to-day.
Yeah.
And He'll see you through.
Yeah. For some people, when they hear keep God first, they think you're actually just trying to give a religious statement. But it's real, isn't it?
It's real.
Because at the end of the day, when you've been so broken and so hurt, who else but God can do operation on your heart?
Yes.
Nobody can operate on your heart like He can. And to turn to Him and to rely on Him, He'll give you peace when you don't even understand why you should have peace at that particular time. And I promise you, He is a very present help in a time of trouble. He's the one that you lean on and you hang around with folks who will feed you this word and feed you things that will say things like, God perfects that which concerneth you. And one of the reasons I believe Sharon is here is you can look at the end of that faith and what she's telling you can look at, because I can remember almost 2 years ago, she looked like you right now. It wasn't too many days or weeks after her son had passed on. And like I said, I saw her today, and only God can do that. And only God, and nobody's saying you're gonna forget about it. Absolutely, you can't. That's your kid. You'll remember the rest of your life. But I want to bring up something to both of you, and I want you to hear this. It was about a couple of months ago, and the Lord said to me, He said, sometimes the fear of disrespect can sometimes be as bad as the actual act of disrespect. Because when you are afraid that you're being disrespected, it already positions you in a place to respond and to do some things. Mm-hmm. And my concern was that we have a lot of black kids that are fighting for their respect. And sometimes to be afraid of being disrespected may put me in a position to respond out of the fear of disrespect before it ever takes place. Mm-hmm. Did you see or hear any of this with your guys or their friends, something that you can recall where, because I hear people say, you know, you can do this to me, you can do this to me, but I'm not gonna let you disrespect me.
Yes, mm-hmm. I noticed it quite a bit, not allowing anyone to disrespect me in any type of way. And to feel like if they did, then you have to do something back to show you're not gonna allow that person to disrespect you. And I think that's what my fear was, because it was so much of that and it was so much anger. And I think that's what led up to that day. Just having that inside of him and not knowing how to let that go. It's like going through the process now of blaming. I blame myself.
I gotta ask Sharon to speak to that. I mean, I know you know. Could you speak to where she is right now? And it just breaks my heart to hear that. It's because you're not to blame.
Yes. Demetria, you are not to blame. You know, we do the best as parents that we can for our children. You know, we speak into their lives, we pray for them, but when they leave the house or whatever, you know, we don't know what's gonna happen, and it's not your fault.
You have to really, really believe that, because here's the thing that parents go through. Every parent, I would imagine, they carry some type of guilt, and sometimes based on what happens, the shame comes in, because guilt is one thing. Guilt is all about, I feel guilty for what I did, but shame is, I feel like I'm a bad parent. And shame is always about how you feel and how you view yourself, and you're concerned about how others see you and how others view you. So you gotta make sure that claw of shame doesn't get on the inside of you. The thing that I have come to recognize and realize, you know, once those kids turn 18, 19, and 20, they are grown, you know, and they have got to now make a decision to have a relationship with God, the one that helps them, whether they do it privately. Sometimes they don't announce it. There may be things that they're working on and dealing with. But when they became grown, now they're responsible for the decisions they make. They can't continue to point fingers and say, you know, it was your fault. If you would have done this, okay, well, maybe I should have done better, but even if I didn't, you are now grown, and you're gonna have to make a decision to have a relationship with Jesus, and you're gonna have to make a decision about the decisions you're making. But you don't get to point fingers at me and blame me anymore and even try to shame me for it, because if I didn't do something right, and I don't claim to be a perfect parent, but if I didn't do something right, then you're gonna have to hook up with God so he can do right what you say I didn't do right. But at the end of the day, I'm not accepting that responsibility for the decisions that you make. And so, you know, you gotta be careful, because that's when shame can put its claws on the inside of us and make us feel like, you know, the whole thing was my fault. No, absolutely not. Don't do that. Let that go. And God has something for you. He can birth a tremendous blessing out of this tragedy. And I wish that there was a way I could come up with this covenant amongst black men and have every black man alive sign an agreement that I will never, no matter what happens, take the life of a black man because we are brothers. And enough of society has taken us away from one another. We're killing one another. We can't do that. We gotta stop. It's gotta stop. You don't have to fear being disrespected. If you'll give your life to Jesus Christ, then He will take care of you. He will be your vindication. He respects you. He will love you. And it's a fear. It's a demonic fear. I am afraid that you're going to disrespect me, so I'd rather kill you than to allow you to disrespect me. We're better than that. But we've got to start recognizing that we're better than that, so we don't have to continue to have these senseless things happen, and we leave our mothers behind in pain because we're afraid to be disrespected. Boy, grow up. It's time to be the men that God has called us to be. So, I don't know, I apologize for going off, but you're gonna be all right. And as you see, this woman, she's amazing. Every time I look over there and peek at her, look at her. And I remember the day. It was so painful, and it is equally as painful hearing your story today. So I want to ask you to do something. We talked about this as well. Take all of the fun memories. Take every memory you can, all the pictures you have, and make memories with the rest of the family. Make memories. Include him in the future. Carry those memories with you. Find the good ones, the ones that make you laugh. Remembering him, that you find yourself doing things and just kind of chuckle a little bit because you're like, you know, that's what he would say. And go forward. Go forward. All is well. All is well. You know, there have been way too many shootings everywhere we turn. Street gangs, school shootings, every time you turn on the TV. And I know it seems like a war zone out there, but we must come together as a community to help each other. The movement Sharon has started, Strength of Mothers, is a wonderful start. Let's find ways to support each other through these troubled times. The strength of these mothers. Thank you so much for joining me today. And be sure to reach out to us online at yourworldwithcreflo.com and stay connected with me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And I look forward to hearing your story. God bless you, and I'll see you next time right here on Your World.
The mindset of my son is revenge, and I don't know how to keep my son. I don't want to get that phone call.
Sharon Starks first appeared on Your World with Creflo in the days she lost her son to an on-campus shooting in 2015. During this program's intimate Q&A session, another mother, Demetria Bodie, expressed a deep fear about losing her own son to street violence. And then, in today's gut-wrenching episode, Demetria returned to the Your World studios with the devastating news that what she had feared had been realized. She had received that phone call that her son had also been shot and killed. Today, we ask for your support to help Dr. Dollar continue his personal mission to help people in need through Your World with Creflo. For over 3 years and 130 episodes strong, he has worked tirelessly, accomplishing his mission of counseling those stricken by grief, saving and transforming lives, and leading the lost and broken to God's grace by sharing stories and testimonies that have inspired, encouraged, and challenged us all to live our best lives. And we are helping those who have struggled with finances or job troubles, drug addictions, victims of rape and violence, family and marital problems, and grief and loss. Creflo Dollar and Your World have faced these issues head on and used these stories to deliver a message of grace to viewers struggling with similar issues. Your support of only $20 or more helps this counseling and television ministry continue to offer this transformational program and reach even more people around the world. And as our way of thanking you for your support, we want to send you the CD, God Wants You Healed. In this message, Creflo Dollar reveals how, when the world lets us down, we can look to Jesus, who will never fail us. We need Him in our finances, our family relationships, and especially in our healing. We will also send you 2 DVDs, the full uncut interview from today's show with Demetria, and the entire unedited original 2015 interview with Sharon. You've only seen portions of these interviews. Now join these mothers whose pain speaks for everyone who has lost a loved one, and find healing with them as they walk through their grief and loss. Call or go online now to show Creflo Dollar and Your World your support for this programming. The tragic situations and inspirational triumphs shared by our guests over the last 3 years have been nothing short of astounding. We are hearing from those who have watched the show. Tell us what Your World has done to encourage them to finally do something about their situation, get past that hurt, overcome that addiction, and rejoice in the knowledge that God is real, that God is here, and God is present in our lives. But we can't continue to help reach and transform these lives without you, your Our World family. Please call the number below and make a difference in these people's lives.